Welcome to the Talking with the School of Transportation podcast with your hosts, Ian Campbell and Arna Gill. Let's get into it now. Welcome back to the Talking with the School of Transportation podcast. I have Jesse laughing at me right now, which is fantastic. The intro just gets him so excited, I guess.
I wasn't ready for the podcast voice. You really stepped it up.
Does it change?
It changes a lot.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's like 17
It's usually
octaves
very
different.
high pitched. Very high pitched.
Anyways, we're back for our 10th episode with a couple special guests.
We have joining us today Jesse Kennelly and Daniel Chudy, who are members of our auto body programs and professors who teach in the auto body side of things. So we thought we'd switch it up. We've been doing the auto service, AST for the last 9 episodes or so. And we thought we'd take a look at what's happening in that body shop.
Yeah, I walked in there today and I did have a complaint.
Oh, no.
It smelled.
Well, it's a nice smell, though. It smells like dust, not oil.
Oh, it didn't smell. Fair enough.
Does it smell like
Where was that familiar
different
grease
smell.
smell?
Yeah, it's the familiar Bondo smell.
Yeah, why was this smell? It smells like Bondo in here for some reason. It wasn't.
Well, it's not Bondo brand that you're used to. It's actually a 3M
we're getting
brand
technical.
So it's better, is that it?
Yeah,
It is.
It's like
Sponsored
aged.
by 3M at some point, hopefully. So, yeah. So we have the auto, which is the 310B, right? Is that the license that you guys hold? So Harnick and I hold a 310S, which is the automotive service license, and you have a 310B. What does that stand for? What does that mean?
The, like numbers in the letter.
Like,
Well, what does it mean? Like, so as a, AST technician, I know that if you got your license, you completed a level 1, 2, 3 in apprenticeship. I have an idea of what courses are covered and what your role as a technician is, but, I'm not too sure with your 310B, does that mean frame puller? Does it mean it's someone who does paints cars? What is that?
I can answer this one because I'm old and Jesse's young. But so there is different licenses.
Sorry, you got to start with that. Back in my day.
Yeah, back in my day. So when I wrote my license, you could get a Ontario license or interprovincial red seal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the red seal allowed you to work anywhere across Canada. But there's also you can take just the first 2 years of apprenticeship, the first 2 levels of apprenticeship.
Okay.
And then you're just basically a non-structural collision technician. So no frame rails, no structural welding and stuff like that. But you can do body work, change doors and fenders and all that
And
stuff.
would you complete a license after level 1 and 2, like a test?
Yeah. Yeah. It's called 410Q or something like that.
I thought it was
310Q.
Yeah, 310Q maybe.
310Q, I think.
Okay.
But there's not too many people that do it, and they usually don't come here to school to take that. Like usually people go for it all, and then if they like have trouble with the C of Q, or then they'll back it down a notch and not go on the frame rack and do the hardcore auto body.
Okay.
But and then there's a paint license as well, 410N.
Okay.
I have that license as well.
Okay.
I don't need it, but I have it. And paint is rolled into the auto body collision technician license. But painters in our trade don't really do any body work. They just paint, right?
Gotcha.
So they actually have a separate license for them, but it's a voluntary trade. So you actually don't have to have a license. So some of them have it, some of them don't have anything. And then you can also paint as a collision technician too. So like our trade is.
This is why I'm always
messy.
confused by it. Okay.
It's not just the body filler dust.
Yeah.
It's a wide range of like skills. And normally what happens is you complete your training, you get your certificate, and then you stay in your little area. You don't do all of it for the most part.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what was your path like, Jesse?
I've only ever worked at 2 shops. I worked at a small mom and pop shop for like 10 years-ish. And then came to school, and my instructors here at Centennial pushed me to do better and want more, and really opened my eyes to what I could do, and ended up working at, one of the premier restoration shops in Ontario/Canada probably. And I worked there for 9 years, I think. Just started working in the body shop, doing paint work, doing repairs. And at that facility, you looked after the job start to finish. Here's the customer's car. You take it apart. You do the repair, you paint it, you polish it, you put it back together.
All you.
Oh, okay.
No
All you.
teamwork, just one.
So
okay.
then, you take full responsibility for that car. Nobody else is going to, take the blame if you make a mistake.
Oh, cool.
But I liked it. It was a cool place to work. I got to work on lots of cool high-end stuff and experiences.
Name some of those high-end things that you got to work on. One or two special ones to you then.
I got to restore one of Carol Shelby's personal big block Cobras that he owned.
Okay.
So my boss purchased it. He was nice enough to let all the employees drive it before we restored it. So everybody got to take a big block Cobra on bias plies out on the road for a spin. Restored it, painted it. And we did the first Ford GT40 in North America.
Wow.
So it had a 15-page spread in Playboy magazine. It went to all the big shows back in the 60s, and we restored it back to its original condition.
That's cool. So some pretty important pieces.
Yeah.
In the automotive history, I would say.
Cool cars if you're a car guy, I think. I was a little intimidated when I first started there, but you grow a little numb to the prices of things and what cars' values are, and they're just parts, right? I tell the students, if you can fix a Corolla, you could fix a McLaren. It doesn't matter if the part's $8 or $10. It's the same paint process on it. So
yeah, you just have to deal with a different type of customer at that point.
But you get more time.
That's true. Yeah.
If you have a Corolla, there's only so much money you want to spend to paint your fender. If your car's $1 million,
and never driven anyway. Yeah, that's true. That's neat. What about you, Chudy? What did you get into?
I actually worked in a pretty similar shop. It seems to be a bit of a theme in the auto body department because the majority of the trade is people pick a specialty and you just do that one thing, like the guy who does transmissions or front end or whatever. And it's the best way to make the most money and the best profit for the business. But where I grew up in the Kawarthas, it's all little mom and pop shop too. So we're called multi-techs. So we did everything, right? And I did just literally everything. And my shop was not fancy. And we did everything from tractors, and people would bring in a refrigerator and be I want this purple. And okay. And we did every winter, we did a restoration when there wasn't so much other collision work, and then fixing pickup trucks and everything. Right. Cool. And I had a really well-rounded apprenticeship and time there because I did everything. We bought brand salvage collision damage cars and resold them. We did customer pay work. Yeah. We did insurance work. We did everything, right?
Cool.
So I enjoyed working there, and I learned tons. And it was a really weird place. My boss, I don't think he cared about making money. Because I remember I fixed a Caravan that he bought at auction, and I fixed it and painted it. And I used to have to, he put the dealer plate on. I had to drive it back and forth to work to see what would fall off, right? Shake it down, right? And the transmission blew. And he it looks like you're changing the transmission. It's if your name was on the work order, it's yours. Okay. And he used to make me do the wheel alignment, recharge the AC. I had to go and get my ODP, align the headlights, everything, right?
That's great as an apprentice, though.
Yeah. So I got to do everything.
Get all that experience.
Yeah. And it served me well here because anything that we teach, I'm familiar with it, right?
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes you a little more well-rounded. And I try to tell even our apprentices, don't pigeonhole yourself into one little aspect of the trade. Mm-hmm. You want to try to experience as much as you can. Especially when you're younger, it's a little bit easier. You're a little bit more, just like you probably didn't have a choice. You were told, go do this, put a transmission in that car. Yeah. Your name's on the work order. So you're okay, I have to.
Here's the manual.
Yeah.
Good luck.
And it was paper.
Yeah, that's true.
Interesting. So one thing I've wondered is when I talk to our apprentices or someone who's thinking about getting into the trade, they have questions about what's it like coming to Centennial? What can I expect in terms of courses? I tell them, I describe our courses. We have drivetrains where you do this. We have engines, SSB, electrical, fuels. I don't know what courses the auto body students actually typically go through. So what would they experience?
I've taught our post-secondary students for the last 4 years the techniques and technician program. For the techniques program, they do a vehicle construction, how vehicles are made, what the structural parts are, what are cosmetic parts. They do shop safety to make sure that they don't get hurt when they're working in the lab because they have no in-shop experience.
Yeah, these students the diploma program students are very fresh.
For sure.
Yeah, I teach them math and they're very fresh. They're like, oh, that's a car. A lot of them. So it's they're raring to go because they're excited about it, especially applied mechanical. We see that, but it's like they don't have much experience at all. So
they don't.
Safety would be an important one.
Yeah, maybe they're excited about cars, but nobody in their family works on cars or has like a trade hand-on job. Maybe their parents do computers or sales or something, so they don't have anybody to teach them that stuff. So they've never held a drill. They're intimidated by a saw. They don't know how to swing a hammer. Like it's just they're working on those basic skills before they go into a shop and have a job. So vehicle construction, workshop safety, applied mechanical,
math.
Don't
forget math.
English,
my favorite.
Refinishing.
Detailing? Did you say that?
That's part of refinishing.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Because I have a student in my math class right now that's his favorite. He just loves the detailing class. So I'm like, really?
It's a couple weeks in refinishing, isn't it? Maybe 2 weeks.
Yeah, and then they do it again in semester 3 as well. The next year if they stay as a technician. So we basically have 3 programs that are running at the same time. We have techniques, which is modeled after apprenticeship level 1.
Okay.
And it's like the basics. It's really broad though, right? Like the amount I think auto body is challenging for our students because it's a really wide range of skills that you have to learn how to weld, but you also have to learn how to color match or detail or wash a car properly. And then we do like tires, and then the next class they're trying to learn math,
Right. Yeah.
They have to learn a lot of stuff, right?
Wow. Okay.
So I mean, and then we have the technician program, which if those students want to, they could go and get a shop and start an apprenticeship, or they could come back for a second year. And then we go into the level 2 curriculum, and they go into more advanced auto body, like more advanced welding of galvanized coated metals.
Okay.
In harder
vertical
positions,
and overhead position welding and stuff like more. And then painting, we get into like multi-stage metallic colors, plastic refinishing, like that's what additives, and do bumper covers, which seems like not a big deal, but a bumper cover is very difficult to paint. It has a lot of shape and the process changes, and it just gets more advanced, right? And then we have our traditional apprenticeship, and they come for level 1, level 2, level 3. And every week they're doing all these different classes, just like your students are, but they're massively different. Like you see our students in the hall, like putting on welding gear, and then you see another group of students that are putting on paint suits, right? Like they're doing really different classes, like every day.
Okay. So there's the techniques program, the technician program, and the apprenticeship. Are your 3 main programs there. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's interesting. And at their base, there's a lot of similarities. But if they want to get their full license, they need to do, at some point, they have to complete the apprenticeship. Is that fair to say?
Like Motive Power, right? They have to come back and finish their apprenticeship after they get a job in the shop and get some hours under their belt, some skills, right?
Okay.
What's your favorite thing to teach?
All the classes are fun. They're always entertaining because you reflect on mistakes you made when you were that age and thought you knew everything. Welding's fun. I like the non-structural classes because there's lots of dent repair and filler work. But what I find sometimes too is since the students, they're signing up for the program, they imagine they want to do auto body but have never tried it. sometimes they don't realize how hard of work it is. Like it's a lot of work. Like you have to sand that filler, you have to hammer that dent out, you have to mentally come up with a plan to repair that vehicle. And sometimes they just find one aspect that they like. Like every year we have 2 students that are amazing welders. They just pick up a MIG welder and they're rock stars.
Right.
And welding's a good trade too. Like you're early enough in your career, you're young enough that if you decided to become a welder, you know, you're not really taking a step back. You're just sidestepping to a different trade and continuing forward.
For sure. Yeah.
The same thing happens in paint too. Like a student tries out the spray booth and the paint and they're hooked.
Yeah.
You know, and then really they can go from techniques or technician straight into working in a shop and don't even have to come back to apprenticeship, right?
True.
And the painters make fantastic money, right?
You're spraying poison for a living.
We have PP. It's fine.
And then I guess, well, you know, it's never been so good in terms of explaining the importance of PPE versus, you know, what the guys were doing 20, 30 years in past, right? So you'd make it, the trade is so much safer now. We're so much better educated.
Hopefully.
Theoretically.
Yeah.
It's self-led, right?
That's
You're sanding filler. You have to choose to put your mask on, or I yell at you to put your mask on. Those are the 2 options here.
It's like my students and their safety squints that they sometimes put on. Yeah.
Well, a lot of the students too, they watch YouTube and shows and stuff. And in the US, they have a lot laxer regulations than we have here. Right?
Okay.
And we have to wear like these air supplied fresh air respirators for painting because the paint is really carcinogenic, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they watch whatever they watch on their phone and nobody's wearing those masks, right? And they only learn when they come here. Like you legally, like you have to wear this fresh air supplied mask, right? And it has been legislated since like 1982.
Oh,
like
really?
it's not a new thing,
Okay.
right? Like as soon as they came out with catalyzed
And once
paint,
you have all the information, you absolutely want to wear
Yeah.
that mask. Like,
Well, hopefully.
right?
Yeah, hopefully.
Hopefully. Do you find that with your students it's hard to get their masks on sometimes, or they think they're like they can do it without, or is it pretty well regulated?
There's lots of them that will take their mask off and have it around their neck to chat with a classmate and then not put it back on. It's around their neck. It's on the side of their head. Their safety glasses are in their pocket. Like, it's not in a spot that it's going to offer them any protection.
And another question that's kind of more of a dumber question, is that like shop wide? If somebody's doing that, I know you guys have different booths for different things, but if you're sanding body filler, should the shop have the protection on, or should it be just the individual close to it? Like how does that spread? Like,
well,
what do you
hopefully
think?
the shop has some type of prep deck that's taking that dust and
like a
filtering
ventilation
it.
system kind of thing? Okay.
But not all shops have that. Some low budget shops, you're just sanding here and the guy beside you's putting brakes on a car or something. But it's self-led. They should wear it for sure. Like it's one of those things where it doesn't hurt you instantly. It's not a piece of metal in your eye. It hurts you 10 years later, and then there's no fix for it, and you can't go back. So I think that's why they find it challenging. They don't believe you. They're not seeing side effects.
Right.
I'm holding my breath,
Nothing's
or
hurting
I got my sweater over my face. Like,
Reminds me of sanding aluminum wheels.
Yeah, that's
like
not good.
20 years ago. It was like, grinding away, like leaning sideways. Like, what's that doing for you?
We've learned a lot about aluminum. Now. Like you can't even wear deodorant now.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I got a lot of aluminum throughout the years. But
I think that I think in the shop though it's easier to wear your PPE than it is at school as well, because at school they're with their
buddies and friends.
and everybody wants to chat and stuff, so it's tough to keep your respirator on, right? At work it's just like for the most part you in the car.
Second
It's easy to
nature.
just keep it on. So
That's good.
we try to instill the like, I wouldn't say fear, but like we just want them to get used to wearing this PPE all the time so that it
you
just
form the
becomes
habit.
and then it's just second nature. They just want to wear it, right? Like I'm like that. Like I feel a little bit naked if I'm not wearing safety glasses, right?
All right, I have another weird question. What is the Big Daddy? Is it a tool? And not like that.
I've never heard of
Is
it.
it
It's gone very quiet in
Is
here.
it a
Ian.
rivet gun or something?
Oh, someone mentioned this to us,
Yeah.
didn't they?
So I have the students, and they have Mr. Alberti for for tools or something,
Uh-huh.
and he calls it the Big Daddy. So I'm like, you need to call Mr. Alberti the Big Daddy.
Maybe it's the
big rivet gun.
Rivet gun.
We have a humongous rivet gun for
And
structural rivets.
I think it's literally named the Big
I think
Daddy.
that's
It's
the
not for
brand
structural
or something
rivets,
like that. Yeah.
well, it's
Window
for,
regulators.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
Yeah.
It's just a
Big
blind
rivets.
rivet.
Yeah, but it could also be. We have a ridiculous sledgehammer in the shop too.
Oh,
Oh,
Like
yeah.
it's a
this may all be
gigantic
cut. I don't know.
dead blow. Like it's the biggest sledgehammer ever. So, and we like to squish stuff with them for
Yeah.
destructive testing.
Watermelons and
Maybe
whatnot.
that's the
Yeah.
No, students' projects that they
Yeah.
completed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So if any of the auto body students are listening, if you have Mr. Alberti, just call him Big Daddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's great.
It suits him.
Does it?
He can handle that Big Daddy term.
I think
no
so.
pressure.
I think so. Yeah. Let's make this happen. Let's make this happen.
Okay, so on the other side of the coin, there, what is the thing that your students struggle with the most? And this could be in any subject that you're teaching, something that they're like a difficult concept that maybe they have trouble wrapping their heads around, or a skill they struggle to master.
For me, for non-structural repair, we spend a lot of time on measuring. So 3-dimensional measuring, tram bars, tape measures. And for whatever reason, they don't see the importance that it has to be within like 3 millimeters or less,
Tolerance.
And they go, we learned rulers in high school. We don't need to do this. But if you give them a tram bar, they can't measure anything accurately.
Yeah.
We do it for a while and they struggle with it and they don't like it.
Could you explain a tram bar quickly? If you don't mind?
Picture a stick with increments on it and 2 pegs equal distances away from the stick to
Like
get
knitting
over
needles.
Yeah,
Like
okay.
knitting needles on the end
to
of the
get
tape
over
measure.
objects because
Yeah.
you don't have a direct straight line from point to point. There's stuff
Yeah.
in the way, so we're just taking that straight line measurement and moving it up.
Got you. Yeah.
10 centimeters over the obstacle.
Yeah, and that's for measuring,
Vehicle structure.
components or wherever on the vehicle. Cool.
We use that in SSB for measuring wheelbase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think like for my students, they don't have the real life experience yet. So they haven't seen how important it is that the car measures correctly before it's painted or after it's repaired. You tell them, but they don't know yet.
Yeah. They don't understand what happens after that, right? Like if something's an issue
You
with
repair-
setback and you drive down the road after and it's not driving straight, they don't see
It's not even
how
that. No, it's the
important it is,
panel
or-
gaps and everything.
Okay.
Right?
Oh, I
Because
see.
we have to measure it for width, for length, and then really for height as well. It's 3-dimensional, right?
So
And if
you use-
either one of those is off by a couple millimeters,
Yeah.
like the headlight doesn't fit right, bumper doesn't fit right,
Yeah,
the fender
okay.
doesn't fit right.
I see.
Yeah.
It throws
Yeah.
everything off.
Yeah, you're starting with a 3-4 millimeter door gap. So it's
Yeah.
off by 2 millimeters. That's visible.
Very noticeable, yeah.
And a lot of the bolts are now shouldered, so the panel doesn't have adjustment. It bolts to the vehicle structure, and it's not straight. And the
Okay.
car's painted, and now what do you do?
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I would never think that way as a automotive service tech. It's
Yeah,
like
you sort of
I
bend it
don't care.
this
I don't
way.
care about the gap in the door. Yeah, like-
You're like, does it drive straight?
Yeah,
Okay, then
exactly.
be happy.
But if you take a door off and put it back on, it goes on the same way, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
It's like,
yeah.
but then when you drive it into a tree, it doesn't do that
No,
anymore.
Right.
Usually it doesn't go
Right.
on the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
Okay, and would you say that's Dan, the same kind of thing your students struggle with? They have got different classes, right?
Well, it's funny because Jesse is a really good painter who's teaches in the body shop.
Average painter.
And I'm a really good body man. Yeah, better than him for sure. And I teach in the paint shop.
Okay.
So for me, for refinishing, what I noticed the students struggling with is like semester 1, you have to pay attention and you have to learn it in order to be successful in semester 2.
Gotcha.
Because like you learn like how the spray gun works, like all the adjustments on it, and how to set it up properly, and then how to use it. We call it like the dogs, distance, gun speed, and overlap
Okay.
to paint an even coat over an even coat of paint over the panel. And then that semester 1, they learn about the spray booth and how to do all that stuff. And then semester 2, they have to apply that. We don't go back to spray guns. We don't go back to how to use the spray gun. It's just like, here's the primer and the spray gun.
Yeah.
This is how you use the primer. You already know how to use
Yeah.
the spray gun, right?
Apply those skills you're supposed to have.
Yeah.
Right.
And when they didn't pay attention the first time around, or if they struggled with it and didn't push to get it nailed down, it comes back to bite them every semester, right? As we go on to painting bumper covers or full cars or doing advanced blending or whatever, it comes back to those core skills at the beginning that were so important, right? And they think, well, it's semester 1, like this is the basic stuff, but you can't
You can't
do
build
anything
without
advanced
that
with it.
foundation.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And I see a lot of students that really struggle with setting up a spray gun or just being able to control how the paint is going on to the surface, which makes like it's so frustrating to move on and get a good result, right? And it's like they got to go back to the beginning to move further ahead, right?
Yeah.
Interesting.
They also think it looks easy. You do the demo. Dan goes in the booth. He does his routine.
That looks like a fancy dance.
Yeah.
You got to be loose.
Yeah.
If you're not dancing, you're not a good painter. Like,
Starts with limbering up.
yeah, you gotta be.
Does his yoga stretch beforehand? And
Totally, yeah.
You have to be smooth. You can't be rigid. So, you got to loosen up a little bit. But so Dan does it, makes it look easy.
Sure.
And then the students are like, out of the way, sir. Let me show you. And it's a train wreck because you have, 20 plus years experience that you're showing them.
Yeah.
And they have no years experience.
And then you just sit back and go, told you.
Well, I don't. I'd say go back in and do it
Yeah.
again, right? And some of them go, yeah, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it again. And those guys are fine, right? They're
Sure.
good to
Right.
go.
Yeah.
The other ones go, no, it's okay. I've tried. I'm good.
No,
It's like,
yeah.
no, you got to practice,
Yeah.
right? And we have paint simulators, and then we have simulated paint with a real gun, and
Yeah.
then we go on to just spraying base
Is that the
coat.
cornstarch thing that you guys use? The
Yeah,
cornstarch? Yeah.
yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, it is actually
Yeah.
really cool. It's something that Mr. Hussein came up with.
Okay.
He was just messing around. I had them spraying French salad dressing.
Okay.
and
He's making
and
him a
Mr.
sandwich
Hussein
or
is
something.
like, this smells weird. We got to come up with something better. And he figured it out because we don't have to wear any like PPE and be in the spray booth and all that stuff to spray it.
Okay.
But it's just cornstarch and like distilled water and a little bit of food coloring.
Cool.
And then you just wash it off down the drain.
Yeah.
And they can spray over and over and over again, right?
And what does that allow them to see? What the outcome of it? Is it similar to paint, or is it like the movement, or what are they going after
It
with it?
sprays very similar. It's water based, so you apply it too heavy, it'll run just
Yeah.
like base coat will. And if you do multiple coats, like you watch it flash off, it dries, you put another coat on, the water can penetrate the first coat and make it move. Like
Okay.
it's pretty realistic
Oh,
to
wow.
base coat.
Neat.
Yeah, and our cheap paint that we're spraying in the shop is like $700 a gallon,
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
wow.
and cornstarch is like a gallon is $5 or something.
That's
Cheap.
awesome.
Yeah,
That's
so the students just go over and
It's
over.
like
and
an
over.
amazing opportunity.
Yeah.
for
Do you
them,
find
yeah.
them go more in depth with that first, or do you find them go, "Oh, I used the gun, I sprayed it," and then they walk away, or is the cornstarch easier to kind of keep them going on, or does the paint intimidate them?
Well, I mean, it's like so students, like even I'd say halfway through the first semester, they've already kind of, well, I don't really want to be a painter. So
Okay.
you get some of
okay.
those, and
Yeah.
then some of them are like, "Oh, this is really cool." So it really depends, like how much they want the marks or how much they want the skills,
Cool.
right? And some of them just want the marks and
And they're done with it.
Yeah. And some of them they just
That
go-
is a skill too. It's like it's amazing to see. Like I can't do it at all. I'm terrible.
Not a good dancer.
I'm not I'm a terrible dancer. I grew up flat rate, so everything's like, oh, let's close the hood after we're done. It doesn't need to look pretty. And then you try and do body work, and you're like, oh no.
Every little
Yeah.
imperfection is so
Yeah,
obvious.
it's not-
Yeah.
It's not,
I always
not easy
kinda-
for me at all. So
Yeah. I always kind of viewed that auto bodies more like art.
Mhm.
And then what we do is like a little bit more like science.
Mhm.
Right. That's not 100% true because mixing
there's a lot of
paint, I
science
know how
with you guys
difficult
too,
all
yeah.
of that kind of stuff is. But in high school, I was very lucky. I was able to take auto body and auto service classes. So I took 3 years of auto body. And shout out to Mr. McCourt, who's retired. He's a great teacher, great auto body teacher. But I was kind of hopeless. So you'd be building these things and I'd always put way too much body filler on, and then you have to sand it, and you're just sanding and sanding and sanding and sanding, and then you prime it, and then you paint it, and then you see all your imperfections for the things you didn't do well. So I didn't have the knack for it. Love the welding portion of it. So I guess it is kind of like your students who do like this section of it.
Yeah.
But it felt more like an art than a science, with at least what I was doing.
It's an incredibly technical art.
Yes. That being said,
Everybody always says that, and I guess it is somewhat true. But like auto body now is I'm not saying it's changed. It's not changing. It has changed, right? We have extremely intense body manuals that we have to follow now, and you have to use specific techniques, specific glue, specific rivet, specific welding wire, specific spot welder, and sometimes all of those things just to put one panel on a car now, right?
Wow.
And it's like some of this stuff now is so easy to make a small mistake with huge consequences that a lot of people outside of the industry don't realize. Like if you take a belt molding off of a Toyota, like a current model Toyota, it has to be replaced. You can't put it back on again. And it's because the airbag timing for the curtain airbags goes off of door pressure.
Yeah.
Right. And you just go like, well, I'm going to detrim this and paint it and slap it back on. You have to read the body manual just to paint a door now, right? And our sealer, I was just teaching the level 2s. We have a paint sealer that if you don't put it on a brand new part, all the paint will peel off in 3 years.
Okay.
Right? Because the E-coat, the special primer that the manufacturers put on, has zero resistance to UV rays. So if any light gets through the paint at all, it just disintegrates.
Wow.
And that can of sealer, you have to put it on a paint shaker and you have to leave it there for 10 minutes to mechanically
Agitated enough for
you have to mechanically shear this special
bonds?
pigment that's in it blocks. So it has like little plates in it that all lay down and completely like block the sun. And if you don't shake it on a shaker, mechanical shaker for 10 minutes and you put it, then the paint just all peels off in 3 years.
See, this is all the stuff that like we're in the trades in the industry and we don't know.
Yeah.
Right. And let alone the average customer who's like, well, why can't you just paint my car for $300 and call it a day? I don't understand.
And also hammers home. We did a podcast a few episodes ago about service information, and it sounds like you guys are right there with it. Like if you don't understand the process, and I think you said that earlier, like your process or how you figure out the way.
Yeah.
I think that's so important in our side, which is like diagnosing something, why it doesn't work, but then you guys have to find your process to implement it, right? So
and make the repair last. Like 3 years is a good amount of time that the repair must last that easily. Like if you skip one of those steps, normally within that 3 year window, you start to see the issues that come up. Right?
Gotcha.
And everything that gets fixed in a collision shop, like if you smash your car and you go and get it fixed at like an approved repair, like a good body shop, it has lifetime warranty when it leaves.
Oh, really?
Like everything that's repaired. Yeah.
Okay.
So if say you drive a Ford and you smash your door, that door had paint warranty, corrosion warranty for whatever Ford's warranty, like 10 minutes. Right.
right.
And then you get a new door put on and it's been painted. It has a warranty forever.
Okay.
And that's like an industry standard kind of thing? Oh, okay.
So you really don't want to skip those steps. You want it to last as long as possible.
For sure you do.
Because of that comeback factor, I guess.
It's cool. One of the guys that I worked with at the restoration shop, he had been restoring cars for a long time. And Cougar came in, a 67 Cougar that he had did the body work on and painted 20 years earlier.
Yeah.
And it looked killer still. Like it was still straight. Nothing had moved. No bubbles. Like I think that's like such a cool trophy to have that your work lasts that long and still looks killer.
Yeah. And kind of shows how good you are and the pride you have in your work too, right? Yeah. So that's cool. That's really neat.
That's cool. It's like there's monuments, like a monument to your skill just out there, right? Yeah. Driving around. That's pretty neat.
Yeah, we don't have that.
Yeah.
I did an oil change on that 6 months ago.
Water pumps blown, not related.
Yeah.
No warranty,
Not
sorry.
really. Yeah, I'm sorry. It wasn't me. It's not a comeback, I swear. Anyways. Yeah, that's great. I think that's kind of a fun little intro to the body shop for us. So we have a couple questions that we ask every guest.
So I guess our first one is if there was any. See, this has gone so broad. It used to be any car,
Yeah.
but it's like anything essentially that you could drive or pilot or control. I guess. And what would it be?
You get the Matrix too. You get the Matrix download if it's like I chose a fighter jet,
Yes.
so I instantly know how to use that.
You're not worried you're going to crash the jet within 3
it's
seconds
just-
of taking off.
That's what I was saying. He said, no, we'll just magically know how it works.
We'll give this a shot.
How hard could it be? So if you had, anything, and generally most people have cars and stuff that they'd like to drive. So you could drive for a day, what would it be?
Yeah.
I've always loved vintage cars. So maybe 1928
Oh, wow. Okay.
Bentley 4.5 liter.
Yeah.
Be a cool car. I feel like those old cars, they don't make as much power. They don't handle as well. They're not as fast. But they're just as scary as driving a fast car because it takes so much more effort to keep it alive, on the road.
It's
When-
scary
so
at
true.
80 kilometers an hour.
When I drove that Cobra, big block Cobra, maybe 400 horse, but bias ply tires,
Yeah.
it wanted to be in the ditch at all times. It took so much effort to keep it on the road. A modern car goes 0 to 60 in
Yeah.
2.3 seconds, but you don't have to do anything. You close your eyes and let go of the wheel, and everything's fine. So.
I have going on that. I have a buddy that had Teslas and all the high end stuff, and then he got into cars, so he bought like a late 50s VW Bug, made it stock, and he's like, it's the best car to drive. He's like, I'm going up a hill, I have to plan out my gear change just to make it up the hill, my 50 horsepower Bug, and he says it's the best driving experience. He's in California. He's like, it's the best driving experience ever. It's not fast, but you're really driving that thing. So I like that. I like that thought a lot. What about you, Chudy? What do you think?
Well, it's kind of funny because we're the collision guys, right? And both of our picks are as if you crash it, you're dead.
Right.
But I like the Matrix thing, totally changed my answer, right?
Okay.
So it's going to be something weird too. So you'd have to look it up. There's this company, they're called Donkervoort, and it's a Dutch company. It's a brand new auto manufacturer, and they make 1960s Lotus Super 7s, but they're completely modernized. They have composites, aluminum structure.
Oh, cool.
They run, I think it's BMW M2 competition motor or something like that, but they weigh nothing.
Yeah.
So their horsepower to rate ratio is it's 600 horsepower per ton or something like that.
Wow.
So I would drive that. I would be dead. Sure, right? But it'd be so fun. But if it's the Matrix thing,
Yeah.
we'll crash it all over the place.
Awesome.
But I think it'd be fun to drive something that is so lightweight and has so much power and actually has grip and
Yeah.
and a seat.
Not bicycle tires that are spoked.
So you're almost in a carriage horse here.
Coals under your feet to keep you warm.
But people buy those cars and they're they're faster than a Bugatti Veyron, but they weigh I don't know, 1,100 pounds or something like that. They're crazy.
Floats after, takes air.
I love that. Those are pretty unique answers.
Yeah, and legit cars.
I love hearing the different stuff
Yeah.
that people come up with. Yeah, it's nice. Just
And kind of shows personality a little bit. I like that.
Yeah.
It's really cool. Really cool. Okay, last question. And if you could pick anybody, dead, alive, or fictional, to be for a day, who would you pick?
Oh, I can go first. I gotta.
Okay.
let's hear it.
I would want to be. You guys know who Ayrton Senna is? He was a Formula One driver.
So we had the students. One of the students said the
said
same.
Ayrton Senna?
Yeah.
So I would want to be Ayrton. So Ayrton Senna was obviously an amazing Formula One driver.
Yeah.
But he helped develop the original Acura NSX.
Okay.
like in 88, 89, when he was winning world championships and stuff like that. And he was like an absolute rock star in Japan, right?
Oh, wow. Okay.
And he was working with the Honda team, like at Suzuka and on the street and everything, like ripping around in prototype Acura NSX. And the Acura NSX, like for mechanically, it's like cool, but for auto body, it is like the coolest car ever. Like
why?
Because they said they made like something like 130 manufacturing patents for aluminum construction.
Really?
And they invent like using all this crazy technology of the time about like honeycomb aluminum and bonding and stuff that had really never been done outside of aerospace. And all the companies that have been making aluminum cars basically since have been like paying royalties to use manufacturing techniques that they developed for that car, right? And everyone goes, oh, well, it's just got like Honda Odyssey minivan motor, right? But they're actually like really, really cool, right? And I just think it'd be amazing to be him there doing that. I think it would be so cool.
Yeah, literal rock star.
Yeah.
Literal rock star.
And basically like, here's a car, try to destroy it, right? Like see, and then tell us how to make it better. I think it would be so cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Great answer.
So I guess for me, somebody like the Happy Hippie, Tim Schmidt, you have a massive car collection. You have unlimited money to fundraise or donate to people to help people, and a fleet of hundreds of cars to pick from to drive, and boats and other things. Pretty cool lifestyle, I think.
Yeah.
Tim Schmidt, I saw him a week ago, less than a week ago.
What's that?
Yeah, he buys a lot of cars off Raceway.
Does he?
So yeah, I just literally saw him. I picked up a 170 Demon Challenger. Yeah, yeah, he's got quite a fleet.
He has a pontoon boat on the same lake that my uncle lives on. This is the first year he's ever had a boat.
Okay.
And it looks like it's probably like a 24-foot pontoon boat, but with twin 450Rs on the back of it. Like cruises at like 75 miles an hour or something.
While
like
grilling burgers.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Pretty cool guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great answers.
Cool.
I'm impressed.
Yeah.
Great answers. We've had some weird ones. A lot of scientist ones for some reason.
Yes.
Like, who wants to be a scientist when you could be the Happy Hippie?
Yeah, for sure.
Or a rock star in Japan. That's cool. Well, I think that does it. Thanks so much for joining us, guys. This was a blast. I think we're gonna have a couple more with you guys moving forward.
Maybe have the Big Daddy on.
We may gotta have the Big Daddy.
He'd be great.
Yeah, he's got a good voice too, doesn't he?
He does, yeah.
Oh yeah. So
Seems
we
like
gotta
there's a
make him
lot of
say
sections.
Big Daddy.
Yeah, we got to get him to say it.
Yeah. But yeah, this is great. I think the next one we wanted to do, and I was curious about, I don't think we have time, is blending and the paint blending. And we were talking before this about how, like, you're talking about $1 million cars and how you have to make that paint match and how crazy colors are and stuff. So I'd love to hear a lot about that moving forward. So stay tuned for that. And thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us. It was great. Fun.
Yep.
Sweet.
Awesome.
So if you liked this episode, please throw a review up on Apple or Spotify or whatever that looks like. Follow us. And if you have any questions, if you have any content that you want to hear about or people you want to hear from the college, please email me in the description below. And until next time.
Bye.
Do you like this bye thing? I don't like the bye thing, please. That's like Smartless podcast.
I don't know. I have no idea what that is.
And until next time.
Oh, what about Nick?
We didn't talk about Nick.
Bye, Nick.
There we go. That's it.
I know an auto body guy, Mark. Bye, Mark. Yeah.
This is getting off the rails. Until next time, folks. Bye.